Rekka stared at the human in front of her, arms crossed, expression unreadable. This is an efficient arrangement, she stated. Mutually beneficial. A rational course of action. Ethan smirked. You make it sound so romantic. Romance is an illogical social construct. This is a contract. Sure. He extended a hand. Well, since we're married now, nice to meet you, wife. Rekka examined his palm like it might detonate, then grasped it. Warm. Firm. A curious texture, slightly roughened by manual labor. Humans were oddly tactile creatures. Ethan gave a squeeze. She squeezed back, experimentally. He raised an eyebrow. Strong grip. Is it insufficient? No. Just firm. He rubbed his hand as she released it. Guess we'll work on that. Rekka dismissed the comment and turned, inspecting their shared living quarters. The human residence was unnecessarily cushioned. This structure lacks stability, she noted, pressing into the mattress. It conforms excessively. Ethan flopped onto the bed, making it bounce. Yeah, it's comfortable. Try it. She poked it again. Suspiciously. This is the primary sleeping apparatus? Yup. Unless you prefer the couch. She glanced at the plush monstrosity in the living space. It vibrated when Ethan leaned on the side. Unnerving. The floor will suffice. No. I possess superior posture. I require no soft support. Yeah, okay, but I don't need my wife sleeping on the floor like a dog. Her head tilted. Dogs are widely regarded as companion species. You wish for companionship? Ethan choked. That's, not what I meant. She stared. He exhaled, rubbing his face. Look, just try the bed. It won't kill you. Rekka finally sat. The mattress shifted. She tensed. This is unnatural. Relax. She didn't. Dinner proved even more perplexing. Ethan kneaded dough, muscles flexing as he worked the pliable substance. The force applied was unnecessary. Excessive. Yet methodical. Your preparation techniques are aggressive, she observed. Gotta work the dough right, he replied, rolling and pressing. Gotta get a good stretch. Her eyes narrowed. Your species enjoys excessive manual exertion. He shrugged, grinning. Some things require a good grind. Her throat constricted. Fascinating. Then came the cooking. He turned up the heat. Too much heat. Searing. Sizzling. The sheer recklessness. You are destabilizing the molecular integrity, she warned. Ethan flipped a pan. Flames flared. His expression didn't change. It's called cooking. That is combustion. That is flavor. She scanned the dish as he plated it. Steam curled. The spices bit at her olfactory sensors. She hesitated. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Scared? Rekka's jaw set. I do not experience fear. She took a bite. Stopped. Something ignited in her. Warmth pooled, spreading from her mouth through her entire system. Her pulse ticked higher. Her muscles tightened. Ethan leaned in. Well? Her fingers curled against the table. This is stimulating. He grinned. Told you I know how to turn up the heat. Rekka swallowed, ignoring the unsettling sensation in her gut. Clearly, the human diet required further study. Ethan groaned as he twisted the wrench, muscles straining. The water heater was being stubborn, refusing to cooperate. Rekka watched from the doorway, arms crossed. Your maintenance techniques appear inefficient, he grunted. It's called fixing things. Sometimes you gotta give it a little push, she observed as he repositioned, putting more force into the thrust. The metal gave a dull creak. More leverage, she suggested. I got it. Another shove, and the pipe jolted into place with a satisfying clunk. Ethan exhaled, wiping sweat from his forehead. See? Just needed the right angle and pressure. Rekka's eyes lingered on his forearms, the way they flexed. She dismissed the irrelevant observation. I failed to see how excessive brute force is an optimal solution. Ethan smirked. Hey, sometimes a good, hard push is all it takes. Her jaw tightened. Illogical. Later that evening, she awoke to an unfamiliar sensation, discomfort. A strange ache in her back. She shifted. The human bed was proving structurally unsound. She rolled, but the material conformed, pressing back. Aggravating. She pushed off the mattress to stand, except she underestimated the give, and instead flailed sideways. Her landing was not quiet. The light flicked on. Ethan, groggy, peered down at her. Did you fall out of bed? She sat up, unamused. Your sleeping structure is flawed. He snorted, rubbing his face. Or you just don't know how to use it. She scowled. I possess perfect equilibrium. You just face-planted onto the floor. She refused to acknowledge the statement. Your furniture is an engineering failure. Ethan chuckled, shifting over. Come on. Get back in. She hesitated. He sighed. You'll get used to it. Just relax. She stiffly returned to the mattress. Ethan turned off the light, muttering. Just try not to fall off again, equilibrium queen. The next morning, she found him outside, shirtless, lifting something unnecessarily heavy. Her eyes traced the movement, purely for scientific analysis. Humans lacked exoskeletal support yet displayed peculiar strength. She approached. You exert significant effort for a task that could be mechanized. Ethan grinned, adjusting his grip. It's called a workout. Primitive. He flexed, showing off. You sure? Looks effective to me. Her gaze flicked over his arms. Excessive. She turned away before she could analyze further. The data was inconclusive. Vrekka's calculations were incorrect. That was the only explanation. The data did not align. There was no logical reason for her body to react this way. She observed Ethan as he worked, hands moving with practiced ease as he repaired a damaged console. His fingers traced along the wiring, adjusting, tightening, securing. His focus never wavered. Her temperature spiked. She adjusted her stance. You display excessive fixation on manual tasks. Ethan glanced up, amused. It's called doing my job. She huffed. It is inefficient. He smirked, twisting a bolt into place. Could have fooled me. You've been watching me for 10 minutes. Her spine stiffened. I was analyzing. Uh-huh. He finished the adjustment, then stretched, muscles flexing. You always analyze with that look on your face. She scowled. What look? He grinned. Like you're running a full system diagnostic on me. Her fingers twitched. Your self-awareness is irritating. And yet here you are. He leaned closer. You sure you're not just impressed? Her pulse spiked again. She took a step back. Your physical attributes are statistically unremarkable. Ethan chuckled, wiping grease from his hands. Right. That's why you're all flustered. I do not fluster. Sure. A vibration in her pocket saved her from further discussion. She retrieved her communicator, and froze. The name flashing on the screen was not optimal. Ethan raised an eyebrow. Who's calling? She inhaled sharply before answering. Dr. Calix. The voice on the other end was smooth, confident. Vrekka. I was in the sector and thought to visit. You are still unbonded, yes? Her grip tightened. Incorrect. Silence. Then a chuckle. You entered a contract? With a human? Ethan leaned closer, clearly eavesdropping. She resisted the urge to shove him away. Dr. Calix's voice took on an amused tone. How unexpected. A mere research endeavor? Ethan's eyes flickered with something unreadable. Then, suddenly, he grinned. Oh, we're way past research, buddy. Ethan interrupted loudly, throwing an arm around Vrekka's shoulder. We're deeply bonded. Ain't that right, babe? She stiffened. Ethan. Calix hummed. Fascinating. Ethan pulled her closer, smirking. Yeah. Couldn't keep her hands off me. Her jaw clenched. You are embellishing. Nah, I'm just explaining how we grind through our issues together. The line went silent. Then, Calix laughed. I see. Perhaps I will visit after all. Vreka exhaled as the call ended, then turned to Ethan, expression unreadable. You are insufferable. He winked. Yeah, but you love it. Her fingers twitched again. She really needed to run more diagnostics. Vreka's internal equilibrium was unstable. She had calculated for many possibilities. This was not one of them. She watched as Ethan adjusted a mechanical panel, his hands working with practiced ease. The sight shouldn't have been distracting. And yet, he glanced up. You good? She straightened. I am analyzing. More scientific observation? Precisely. He smirked. You know, if you wanted to stare at me all day, you could just say so. Her throat tightened. Your ego is disproportionate to your capabilities. Yet you keep watching. She had no rebuttal. Later, she found herself in the kitchen, attempting to replicate human culinary techniques. She had reviewed Ethan's methods. It should not have been complicated. The results were catastrophic. Ethan walked in, stopping short. Smoke curled from the pan. A previously solid structure had liquefied. The oven hummed ominously. He folded his arms. So, what exactly am I looking at? She scowled. Your primitive food preparation rituals lack logical structure. He chuckled. You set the heat too high. She bristled. I was optimizing. You nearly combusted the kitchen. She crossed her arms. Your methods are inefficient. He stepped closer. Cooking takes patience. You can't just force it. She turned away. Your species enjoys unnecessary difficulty. Or maybe we just know some things take time. His voice was quieter now, a little too close. Kinda like figuring out why you've been acting weird lately. She stiffened. I have not. He leaned against the counter. So, you staring at me every time I fix something? Totally normal research behavior? Yes. And getting all flustered when I touch you? She inhaled sharply. I do not. He reached out, brushing a stray strand of her hair back. Her entire system short-circuited. Her breath hitched. His grin widened. Huh. Interesting reaction. Her pulse pounded. Irrelevant. Ethan tilted his head. You know, for someone who married me as a logical agreement, you sure look like you're feeling something. She exhaled sharply. You are intolerable. And yet, he murmured, leaning just a little closer. You're still here. She had no logical counterargument. And worse, she didn't want one.